Hello, friends, strangers, internet. I don't know if I've ever done that intro on a live. It's also been a while since I've live streamed solo. So, the thing, I am going to take a moment to tweet out that I am live because I don't know. Twitter's been weird for me today, so I just want to do that real quick, and hopefully some folks will come in while I'm doing that. And if you're watching on the replay, thank you for your patience while we get going. By we, I mean me, but I get going. Okay. Oh wait, I see people in the chat. Hello. Hi, Christine. Hi, Chris. 805 Bird. Hey, Pam. Hi, Courtney. Okay. Awesome. Great. Thank you all for being here. Makes me feel a little less weird. Hey, Bethany. Okay. So I tweeted out that I was live because I know how YouTube has been lately. Although, like I said, Twitter was weird today. So, and yeah. Hey, Buffy. Oh, my faves are already here. Thank you. Anyone that comes in later, you're still a fave. You're a fave too. But okay, so I had this idea to do a cooking and baking Q&A video, and then I quickly realized that I don't want to edit that video, so we're doing it right now as a live stream. And what I've already done, this is for anyone that's watching on replay and also for y'all in the chat right now. In the description box, I already have all of the questions that were asked. I had questions from the community page, from Twitter, and maybe from Patreon. I posted it all those places. I posted in my description box are the questions and links of things I'm going to be referencing tonight. I did a lot of research, so it's there already. If you're curious as I'm talking, it's there for you. I also might do screen shares as we go because I have my laptop set up. So if if you're watching and you want to see something that I'm referencing, let me know and I'll just do a screen share. Oh, Christine, thank you. I'm so glad you're looking forward to it all day. Okay, so I'm just gonna get going into the questions that were asked because I know that I pulled a lot of info, and I'm gonna be staring down here the whole time, in case you are bothered by people not looking at the camera. Enjoy. Feffy, girl, I stink at baking. Oh wait, girl, I stink at baking, but I have a major sweet tooth, so I need all the help I can get. Well, I can help you with that. I think some of the questions will answer that, but then as we get further along, if you want like specific recommendations, I got you. So the very first question that I got, I have some names for people who ask, and then others don't have. Um, Wait, stinky eggs. I don't even know what a pastry board is. I just bought a pastry board so I can make cinnamon buns. I'm excited. I love I'm not super practiced in, but I love like yeasted breads and buns and things like that. I want to play around with it more. I finally got yeast, and then I just today I got more eggs. So I see that in my future real soon. I ordered yeast like from a random Canadian brand that was on Amazon. I'm I don't know, it's like a very odd package, but it seems legit. So I haven't used it yet, but anyway. So the very first question was, do you have any favorite easy, quick recipes? The first thing that comes to mind, so I love eggs. I love eating them like, I like a runny yolk, but I know not everybody's into that. I like them poached and fried, and I'm not huge into scrambled or omelets, but something that I discovered is called caramelized cream eggs, and it's not the Cadbury cream egg. It's, you use a little bit of heavy cream in a pan, crack the egg in, and basically the heavy cream, because to make butter, you basically take heavy cream and like shake it up a lot, and it separates into like the butter fat and like water. So when you're cooking heavy cream, I think basically what happens is that it starts to do that. So like the fats start to caramelize a little bit, but then the cream like cooks the whites of the eggs so that they're not weird or runny. Like it's almost like a mix between frying and poaching. And I basically just like have like a small container of heavy cream that lasts, if you keep it in a nice cold spot in your fridge, it'll last for a long time. I just do a little bit. You season the like heavy cream with some salt, add the eggs, season the eggs, and turn on the heat. I have the link. Um, it's it's delicious. If you like eggs, um, give it a try. And I haven't done it yet, but you're supposed to be able to use that same technique with cream for like anything. So like I think it could work for potatoes or vegetables. I'm gonna have to try it more. Oh, I see some comments. Right. Okay, stinky eggs. The pastry board is just a marble slab. I don't have counter space, so I can use that on my table. That's really smart. I've been wanting to get a like a cart with a wood, or I guess a metal top would be fine, so that I can have more counter space, because you can see in the video. So this cabinet where my finger is, that's my counter space. I have a sink over here. I have my stove over here. That's my counter space right there. It's just big enough for my cutting board. So I think if I want to try to do any kind of filmed cooking stuff, I need to get a like a cart thing so that I can have more space, basically. Oh yes, happy belated birthday to Pam. That's from Chris. Audra's here listening. Hey boo. I don't know if you're much of a cook actually. Oh wait, Janessa, I missed your comment. I love eggs from my head down to my legs. Any other 80s kids remember that commercials? Yes, and Christine's with me. Welcome, Krista Bunny. Finally caught one of these live. Hello. Yeah, I love eggs. I'm not a vegetarian, but I don't often cook meat at home because cheap meat kind of squicks me out. So eggs are like the good middle ground for me of something I can kind of afford on a regular basis and get protein, and it fills me up. So anyway, that's only the first recipe. So I am team Instant Pot. I have one, and my newest discovery for the Instant Pot is Instant Pot risotto. Holy fucking hell. Instant Pot risotto is so good. Um, oh, Mindy found an, okay, chat comments just distract me. Y'all know that. Mindy found an awesome metal restaurant cart at a yard sale for $7. That's amazing. I'm gonna keep an eye on like Craigslist and the local kind of neighborhood postings if I can find anything. Uh, oh, Letty, thank you for stopping in. I love your channel, Emily. I wish I could stay longer, but I have to head to work. Well, thank you for being here while you've been here. I appreciate it. Meat is a pain in the ass. Meat can be, yeah. Yeah, I'm picky about it, and I've bought and eaten plenty of cheap meat, as I describe it, but it's just not my preferred way to consume stuff. Anyway, so Instant Pot risotto is basically just one of the easiest things I've ever made in the Instant Pot that's like an actual meal, because a lot of what I do with my Instant Pot are things like beans. I've steamed potatoes to like quickly have cooked potatoes, regular just like rice or grains. But I have two linked. One is Kenji Lopez Alt, who is a very like science-based cook who writes for Serious Eats, New York Times, I'm sure other places. He has one that it's vegan and it uses miso paste. And it doesn't have to be vegan. You can use like water or chicken broth or whatever in there. But the miso in with the rice is so good. It's like makes it super savory. Um, And even with that one, I would say I go really light on the salt because I use a red miso for that. I'm not super knowledgeable on miso, but I think it's worth having in the fridge because it just adds like delicious savory flavor to almost anything. Like you could throw it in your stews or soups or whatever, or make a quick miso broth by just putting that in hot water. But that risotto is so good. And then Melissa Clark has a risotto that's a carbonara risotto, which basically just means you stir in. So pasta, like traditional carbonara pasta, is egg yolks, parmesan or pecorino, and like guanciale, and the egg yolk gets stirred into the hot pasta, and it gets creamy and kind of cooks that way. Basically, she takes that idea and does it with rice, with risotto. And again, I love eggs, but I think she has a great proportion of like how much liquid you need, how long to cook it. They're both just great like cookbook or recipe writers. So if you have an Instant Pot, I recommend either one of those recipes to try. Um, the next one I haven't made that many times, but pad thai from Chris Yin Ben Room, I think is how you say it. It's the first pad thai recipe where I'm like, I have everything in my pantry at all times to make this pad thai. It's super simple. Well, I don't always have the noodles, but it's very, very simple and really fast and not intimidating. And I love Thai food, but sometimes it can just be intimidating for how many things are in the the recipe. But speaking of, well, actually I'll go in order of my list. The other thing, speaking of noodles, that I love to do is just like a really simple peanut sauce with any noodle you have. Like I've used spaghetti. You could use pretty much anything you have in your pantry. But the peanut sauce, I mean, I usually eyeball it, but I did link a recipe. But the very basic version, I use peanut butter, I use some soy sauce, I use some fish sauce, and then I use some spicy something. So either like chili paste or a hot sauce or whatever. And you just like combine it together in a little pot on the stove and just bring it to basically warm it up. And then toss that with your noodles. If you have like leftover, let's say you roasted some veg and you have that leftover, you can add that in. Or if you have like some frozen vegetables in your freezer, when you are about to finish boiling your noodles, just throw a handful into the water and then drain it out and toss it with the sauce. It's just like very delicious, and it's basic but not boring. That's usually my idea of like easy. Is like I've done very basic food and like a lot, but if I'm trying to like continue to cook at home and like not order out, I want it to be kind of exciting. Um, Hey Alicia, thank you for stopping in. Oh, stinky eggs, Asian food. I have allergies to peanuts and sesame, so I just don't eat most Asian foods. I want to figure out a way to substitute. I would say you could try something like a peanut sauce with almond butter if you are good with almonds, or cashew butter, or probably any other like seed or nut butter, and just kind of taste it and flavor it. The recipe that I linked to, I think she adds like garlic or ginger, so you can add other things to kind of amp it up if you feel like it's lacking. So that's what I would do if those are a good substitute for you. Oh, Visions of You. I missed this comment. Hi, I use Pinterest for recipes. The app's pin boards have subfolders now, so you can sort recipes by season, course, etc. I have to say, I don't use Pinterest that much as a person, like as a human, whatever, as a person. But I wanted to do my skincare while I'm talking because my skin feels really dehydrated. Sorry, I'm gonna do that. But um, but I have used it kind of recently for a client I was working for. She's uh, is a wedding and event planner, and having done a lot of pinning for her, it reminded me, or re-inspired me to check it out as a regular user because it was pretty cool and I love the visuals of it. It's why I like Instagram. So I need to go back to it. Wait, Mindy, everyone keeps talking about Mexican chicken Alfredo. That's one I want to try. I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to look it up. And Christine has a good recommendation for stinky eggs. Can you have sunflower seeds? I feel like sunflower would be a good substitute if you can do that. So, oh yeah, cashews would be great in like a noodle because it has that same creaminess that a lot of other like nuts and seeds when you puree them have. And I feel like it's not used that often in savory stuff, but you see like cashews in a lot of Thai stir fries or things like that. I think that would be great. Great, like Tony the Tiger. I don't know. It is very indulgent, cashew butter. Okay, so then a really, really basic thing that I do, I'm still just talking about my recipes, is just I will a lot of times if I don't know what to do with like, let's say I bought a bunch of vegetables and it's in my fridge, I'll just roast them and like season them as like basic as I do, which is usually like salt and paprika and maybe garlic powder because I love that. And then a lot of times I'll make like pasta salad where I just boil some pasta, toss it with a bunch of different roasted vegetables, maybe throw in a can of chickpeas or some other bean, make sure it's dressed nicely with oil and like something acidic, whether it's lemon or some kind of vinegar, some fresh herbs if you have them. It's not really like a heavily sauced pasta salad. It's not a like mayo based pasta salad or something. If you have pesto, it would be good in that. But that's one that I guess is more of my way of sometimes sometimes it is my leftovers, like refrigerator clean out. When I'm just bored of things that I have left over in little bits and bobs. I feel like that's such a British term, but whatever. It's like little bits and bobs that I just want to make sure I eat and don't end up wasting. So that's just a good basic one that I've been doing for years, I feel like. Let's see. What else? What else? And then, oh, I was going to mention this earlier. Red curry paste, like Thai red curry paste. I've even seen Target selling it in little like plastic containers in the shelf stable aisle. If you keep that in your refrigerator and coconut milk in your pantry, you can literally make like red curry pretty much any time. And those pastes are really, really good, in my opinion. Again, you can use your leftovers, like put them in the pot and just simmer it together. Or, you know, if you have a bag of frozen vegetables and in the freezer, you can do that. Like what Janessa was saying, I'm a basic cook, so I do a lot of curries if I have random vegetables I want to use. Exactly. Because even if you buy something and you realize, like, oh, maybe I don't really love, I don't know, carrots, or maybe I don't really love broccoli, whatever. If I flavor them heavily, then I can usually like enjoy them. Hello to virtual dinner party. They're from Canada. Um, Christina, I hate coconut milk. Is there a substitute? Well, you can always, I mean, you can do a curry with like a water or broth. It'll be thinner in texture. Otherwise, you can use a little like you could add a splash of heavy cream. I would add that towards the end of cooking or even finish it with yogurt or a little milk. It just depends. If you're looking for the like kind of thicker, creamy texture of like some of the like Thai curries that you've had, then you definitely want to have some kind of like fatty dairy in there, or maybe something. I'm trying to think of any of the non-dairy milks that could substitute. I can't think of any in particular, but I'm not super familiar with them. But if you just want the flavor and you don't mind like a thinner kind of consistency to the sauce, you could always just use stock or water. Yeah, so coconutty dishes. I mean, with a curry, if you just use milk or like I said, heavy cream at the end, you'll need a little bit of heavy cream. You'll get the texture that a lot of those curries have without the coconut. And then I feel like, especially like a red curry paste, that's my personal favorite. Can It's flavorful enough that you don't need the coconut. I have a good friend who's allergic to coconut, and I often I often have to remind myself because I'm the dessert person and she's the savory person, and every once in a while I want to do something with like coconut oil. I have to remember, no, let's not kill your friend. Um, let's see. Pam loves, oh, any preferred curry. I love red curry, but I haven't dabbled in a lot of the other curries, to be honest, in terms of different pastes. And yes, visions of you, or you, I say you. Unsweetened yogurt is a good sub. Exactly. Like just a basic either Greek yogurt or just plain yogurt would be great. And Janessa has a great tip. I get a few different kinds of curry paste at my local Asian market. Brown meat or skip it, throw in veggies, cut with coconut milk, and let it simmer. Exactly. You could totally add meat to like the curry that I'm mentioning. And yeah, if you're out of coconut milk, just use water. Exactly. Because most of those pastes have so much flavor in them that it's just in my opinion, it's like a flavor, but it's a texture thing too. And then at the end, I was just going to say, like, if I'm really lazy and I don't know what I want to eat, I will very often just eat it. Like, we'll just kind of do a snack dinner, meaning like I'll pull out some cheese and some olives and bread or crackers and like whatever I scrounge together. But I'm also like Palestinian, I'm Arab, and that's kind of how we eat on a regular basis. So that's like one of my go-tos. Okay. Ooh, that was a long first question, but y'all are here with me, so thank you. So next up, my dear Mia over Mia's Virtual Vanity asked, what are some idiot-proof baking recipes you recommend to a dummy, her, she's not a dummy, but who has never touched an oven in her life, but is pretty good at stovetop cooking? So in terms of stovetop desserts, first things that came to my mind, lemon curd, lemon pudding, like curds, puddings, custards. So I have a bunch linked in the description box. I mentioned that at the beginning of the video, but in my description box, I have all the questions and any relevant links are there. So y'all can follow along while you're watching if you want. But puddings and custards are good because they're basically all stovetop. So if you are patient and can stir a pot, you can make a custard. There is, I have a lemon cream that's linked in the description box that's almost like a lemon curd, but it's a little bit creamier. And butterscotch pudding, chocolate pudding. Lemon bars are a great one because, so the recipe that I have linked, the crust is just smashed into the pan. So you don't have to like perfectly roll something out and whatever. You just like mix it up and like smash it into the pan so you get an even solid layer. And then you're going to top it with lemon curd, which you pretty much make on the stovetop. That recipe is by like one of my favorite go-to dessert pastry people is Stella Parks. So Stella Parks writes for Serious Eats. She has written for other sites as well. I have her cookbook. I thought I had it at the ready to grab. I don't, but I have her cookbook. I love it. And she does a lot of like Americana remade. Like she's made soft batch cookies from scratch. She's made homemade Oreos. And like she's another person that has a lot of looks at science when she's baking. So she will like break it down and be like, this flavor is like this. So pick up hazelnut extract and add that. Obviously, you don't have to do that with like every recipe, and not all of her recipes are that particular or complex, but I feel like she has figured out the technique and the science behind baking. So I trust her recipes, and I trust telling a beginner to use one of her recipes because I'm like, if you follow it, in my opinion, you're going to have success. So, oh, you know what? I've never made Turkish delight, Pam. I have never made it, but I've eaten it, that's for sure. Casually macerating some strawberries. Tree Birds is over there doing that. Yeah, that sounds delicious. And Sherry said that reminds me of Alton Brown. Yeah, a lot of my favorite food people remind me of Alton Brown because that was one of my first inspirations, I guess, and first people that got me kind of excited about food in a different way. So Kenji Lopez Alt, Stella Parks, they both have that to their like cooking and baking style, and I find it really helpful because for me, one of the things when I'm with my baking, like I want to learn the rules so that I know how I can break them without breaking the recipe. So that's my kind of format. Oh my gosh, me too, Alicia. She said, Sherry, I used to watch Alton Brown, Food Network in general, like a mad woman. It was like the go-to thing on TV in the height of all of like when Food Network really boomed. It was only thing like me, my family, all of us would watch. So yeah, the lemon bars look amazing. I haven't made those, but they look really, really good. Then I have a link to Best Cocoa Brownies for some really easy brownies that are easy to bake and are maybe a good first step for somebody who's used to, stovetop cooking, because you don't need to melt chocolate. You need some basic ingredients. And then let's see. Also, other things that I think are good to start with if you're new to baking are oil-based cakes or muffins or breads. Banana bread, there is a reason why everyone and their mother is talking about banana bread right now. It's because it's super easy to make and it's kind of hard to fuck up. So I have a link to Smitten Kitchen, which she's like an OG food blogger, and I still reference her and I still like her baking recipes. I feel like she's maybe slightly less like perfectly scientific, but she does seem like somebody who makes recipes over and over and over again before posting it. So her banana bread, I have her blueberry muffins linked because they're another oil-based muffin. And the thing with that is that like it's just a little bit of stirring, and like as soon as you see it kind of come together, you kind of stop, and you should be good. And then for cakes, an olive oil cake is a great first cake to try because again, just a little bit of stirring and then you're kind of done. You don't have to worry about, is my butter the right temperature? Is it the right texture? It's just kind of easy. So I have Stella's. She has an olive oil cake and a pistachio cake that's made with pistachio oil. That's absolutely insane and like the best indulgent reason to buy like a fancy bottle of toasted pistachio oil. It is so good. Okay, wait. I see lots of comments. Oh, Virtual Dinner Party says Alton Brown's YouTube channel is good. I need to check it out. I know he's been. I think is Goody coming back. Is that what I heard? I see him on Twitter here and there. But I don't actually absorb. Yes, Alton, Giada. Who else? Well, Ina Garten. I mean, she's a queen. She's a queen. Oh, Lauren, you're welcome. Lauren Davis said, you're a queen. I'm saving all these links. Of course, that's why I went ahead and did them ahead of time. So you can just have them. Pam, Turkish Delight is stovetop. If you don't use gelatin, it's a lot of stirring. No gelatin is traditional. Oh, interesting. Okay. I have another stovetop thing that I'll talk about later, but it's not really beginner friendly. Visions of You, olive oil, chocolate chip cookies are delish. That sounds great. Christine, crisps or crumbles are super easy and delicious. Yes. Okay. That's a great point because if you have like frozen like berries in your freezer, you can mix them with a little bit of sugar and do like a crisp, or like basically it's just a topping. You put the fruit in a pan, you make like a chunky topping to go over it and put it in the oven. Um, let's see, Janessa, have you done the trick where you can use a can of soda with cake mix? I'm lost when it comes to baking, but my friend swears it'll make easy foolproof cake. So I've been thinking about trying to make kind of my take on that by trying a seltzer with some kind of cake recipe because I'm a picky bitch. Cake mix, I just don't enjoy it. I mean, I will eat box cake mix. Somebody's like, I make cake. I'm like, I'll eat cake, but it's not something I'm picking up to use. And generally, the times when I've had that, because that was a trick that like I know my mom has done, and I feel like it's kind of an older baking trick. I felt like a lot of the sodas that people were adding just took the artificial cake mix flavor and like made it even more artificial. So that's why I'd like to try it with seltzer, because the carbonation is what's going to help make like a fluffy cake. But I haven't personally done it in years and years and years. Stinky Egg says banana bread with maple syrup, and it is amazing. That sounds amazing. Yes, maple is great. Maple is a great thing. But I would say, just as a general baking note, if you see like something has sugar and you really want to use maple in it instead, you can't really just swap it out equal amounts, because dry sugar versus wet maple syrup, it's going to behave differently. But you can get maple sugar And you could do that. You could probably swap it out pretty much evenly. Oh, and then Sherry says that to Janessa that her daughter has tried that and it worked well. Awesome. Lauren asks, are there any other food YouTube channels you recommend? Here's the weird thing is that YouTube has always been like a beauty thing for me. I've never really been using YouTube for food inspiration. And now I'm trying to think, who do I watch? I know that I'm gonna think of that. I'm gonna think of that and see about it. Feffy said, yeah, I was wondering about something carbonated that isn't soda for cake because I don't know about soda. Yeah, I want to test it out with just like a plain seltzer and see if it helps in particular. Pam, got to be careful with mixes or flours with leavening ingredients. They can go old in shelves. Absolutely. Like, you got to keep an eye on whatever you're buying in terms of in the store. Okay. The soda cake thing made a very rubbery cake the couple of times I tried it. That's good to know. Because that's the thing is that, like, sodas have sugar in them. And then I've seen some people use diet sodas in the cakes. And I drink Diet Coke. I'm a Diet Coke kind of person. I don't really want to put diet sodas and all their weird things in a cake. It's just different to me. Pam recommends Glenn and Friends for a YouTube food channel. Yes, and Visions of You. Also, different sugar and liquid sweeteners have different concentrations of sweetness. Exactly. And there's a lot of things out there, like if you Google it, that'll give recommendations on how to swap sugars. But just know that you can't just like, oh, well, it says half a cup of sugar, so I'm just going to measure out half a cup of maple syrup or half a cup of honey because you'll have different texture and different sweetness. Stinky eggs. I'm from Quebec, where most of the maple syrup in the world is made, so I'm obsessed. I'm so sad that our maple festivals got canceled. Oh, that's a bummer. I mean, so many of the things that got canceled make me very, very sad. The whole food industry here in Brooklyn and New York is not going to be the same after this, and it's sad. And I wasn't into maple for a long time, but I'm coming around on it. So I would love to go to a maple festival and like try all different forms of it. Sherry says, ours was one time simple thing using Coke. I much prefer a cake made from scratch. It's so much better. Exactly. I do want to do the seltzer test on like a basic cake recipe and try adding the seltzer in and see if it like makes a basic cake recipe that I know and love extra fluffy or delicious. One day I'll do that test. Okay, so we talked about my like best like intro level baking recipes, especially if you're more of a stovetop cook. And then there was a question from Rupika Pika on Twitter asking, why do some recipes call for melted butter versus softened butter? So the link I included is to the kitchen and it talks about different things. But basically, when you're using softened butter, you're usually like mixing it in with the sugar using a stand mixer or a hand mixer. And I think of it as like, and I'm not maybe using the most scientific terms, but I think of it as almost like you're taking each grain of sugar and like coating it with like a little fat blanket, a little fat jacket. But it's kind of creating this new texture because you have all the different grains of sugar that are getting coated in all the different like aerated butter. And that's the other thing is that you're usually using softened butter and putting it into a mixer. And so the mixer is adding air and kind of making the volume of the butter bigger. And you're just creating a different batter texture by doing that. Whereas if something calls for melted butter or oil, it's basically just in there for moisture. And the cake or the muffins or the bread don't need any structure that like the process of aerating the butter and mixing it with the sugar does, or aerating the butter and mixing it with the flour. Like that process, I think, adds a different kind of structure. So you don't want to just like, oh, this delicious vanilla cake calls for a half a stick of softened butter. I'm just going to melt it and pour it in. It's not going to behave the same. You might still enjoy the cake, but it's not going to be the same cake. Let's see. So that's like the butter question. And then Lauren asked, do you have a recipe that you love but don't bake a lot because it's just a little too much effort? Lauren hates making jam bars because they require a crumble, she doesn't like making jam bars because she hates making crumble. I don't mind making a crumble. I find it pretty straightforward, but I know we all have our things. I don't hate making marshmallows, but homemade marshmallows are a big pain in the ass, but they're also my favorite thing to make. So, again, Stella Parks is how I learned how to make marshmallows. Basically, back in the day, she had a blog called Brave Tart, which is the name of her cookbook. So, Brave Tart had like a ton of recipes. I think basically the web hosting expired and she was like at capacity with other things and just let it lapse. So I can't reference that website, but she did do she did, or Eating Well does have her vanilla marshmallow recipe on their site. Basically, she has like the perfect proportion of sugar and gelatin and liquid and corn syrup, and then it's just perfect. She gives you the right instructions in terms of different temperature issues that you come into that you have to consider with marshmallows, and like and all of that. And if you've never made marshmallows, basically how you make them is that you have like water and gelatin without any heat. You just combine it together in a bowl. You let that sit. And then you have sugar, corn syrup, water in a pot. You bring that sugar mixture to a boil, to a certain temperature. I would have to look to know. And then with Stella's directions, once it hits that temperature, you take it off the pot or take it off the heat, let it cool a little bit, and then in the bowl of a stand mixer, you add the sugar syrup and the gelatin, and then you whip it with the whip attachment. You need a stand mixer to make it. It will break a hand mixer. But the way she's instructed how to make it, like the waiting to let the temperature drop again, make sure you're not killing the power of the gelatin, and just all these things that are very, very helpful. And the fun thing with marshmallows is that the water that's in the recipe, you could easily swap out for juice of any sort, for coffee, um, anything like that. So, like, you could make coffee marshmallows. You could make mango marshmallows using a mango, like mango juice in both parts of the liquid or just one part. Like it's fun. And then they whip and they whip and they whip. That mixture whips, and it goes from this clear sugar syrup to fluffy white clouds. And you basically pour that into a pan, let it sit, and then you have the messy job of cutting it up and getting covered in powdered sugar. So that's like a very, very basic intro to making marshmallows. And it's truly one of my favorite things to ever do. But it's a project. And I would say if you have made other things before and you are comfortable with like using a candy thermometer, it's a fun thing to try, but just know it's a project. Janessa, this is like a fascinating foreign language. I'm an okay cook, but a pretty tragic baker. If I can find any videos of like Stella or somebody else making marshmallows so you could see those steps I just described, I'll try to add it to the script to the description box. I'm sure it's on Instagram or something like that. But it's magic. That's the thing. It's like making magic. And Visions of You. Fun fact: marshmallow originally came from mallow plants, which grew in swamps and marshes. I always knew about mallow plants, and I was like, huh, I wonder if it like imparts that bouncy texture or something like that when you like maybe cook it down with water. Interesting. Okay, so that was my little marshmallow tangent, my love of my life. And then Cindy asked, well, both Cindy and Alex asked about gluten-free baking or easy gluten-free cakes or desserts. Um, so one, I referenced some gluten-free desserts again from Serious Eats because here's the thing, and I know I'm like fangirling over Stella Parks. I pretty much do that anytime I talk about her. She has done a lot of recipes that are like naturally gluten-free or are gluten-free because like she has I think worked for a while in Japan, and there they use like sweet rice flour and other flours that are kind of naturally gluten free. So some of her recipes are just gluten free without even thinking about it. I would say my all time favorite cookie ever, not just a good gluten free cookie, but my favorite cookie ever is the Ovenly peanut butter cookie. And it's basically this like big, they stay big and like melted up. Like you use a big ice cream scoop to scoop them out, or you could use a big spoon. They stay like in that big form and they bake, but they're almost like they taste like they're almost raw inside, but they're a little bit more like cooked on the outside. The peanut butter flavor is ridiculous and they're salted well. So they're truly like my favorite cookie. And they have 4 or 5 ingredients in them, like brown sugar, peanut butter, I think egg, vanilla, and salt. Yeah. So that's a good one to start with if you were just gluten free and you really want something sweet and you have peanut butter in the house. Oh, Christine is gluten free. Amazing. Feffy, I knew about the marshmallow mallow plant because of a Bon Appetit vid when Claire makes peeps and gets marshmallow root extract. So I was 34 years old when I found that. Oh, that, duh. Food YouTube channels. I know everyone's talking about Bon Appetit, but I do really love it. And I've really been wanting to make my homemade version of Cadbury cream eggs after watching Claire's video on that. Probably won't do it, but you know. Christine says gluten free on a shoestring is a great blog with tons of recipes. That's great to know. Abby, hello, my dear. Welcome. We are talking about baking and cooking, and right now I'm talking about gluten free stuff. So yes, those peanut butter cookies are magical. They're so good. Obviously, I know there's peanut allergies in the house, so but I also totally agree with what Christine just said. Honestly, if a recipe is well constructed and has the ingredients and weight, it's pretty easy to convert to gluten free. That is like key. I have a food scale. I tend to bake by weight. It is my favorite thing because it's so much less mess. You're not scooping flour and leveling it off. And grab the bag of flour, pour it into the bowl. Grab the baking powder. I mean, if it's a teaspoon or tablespoon measure, I'll use those. But I love using a scale. I know it's not everyone's thing. But the thing is that, so that was one of the questions that Alex asked was kind of more about like flour alternatives, like gluten-free flours. So there are pre-blended things you can get, like Trader Joe's. That's one she works. That's one that she uses, but she said it works good for some things and not for others. And then there are all different other kinds of flours that make up a gluten-free flour blend usually. So I linked a really interesting blog post that was basically this person has identified like let me open it up on my screen so I can kind of talk it through. Actually, maybe I can share the screen. We're going to add and can I screen share? Yes. One moment. Okay. So I don't know this site Fork and Beans, but I was looking it up and I felt like it was an interesting take on gluten-free flours in terms of like making your own blend. Let me just take off that. No, I don't want to go to that image. Hold on. Sorry about that. So basically they've defined like a light starch, a medium, and a heavy, and then kind of went through and described like put different flours or starches into different categories and describe different things that like about each flour. So potato starch. This is my go-to starch for its ability to add moisture into baked goods. Please note that potato starch and potato flour are two different things. Read label carefully. Cornstarch, ground from corn, makes for a great binder and thickening agent. And then she has her medium-based flours, which, like fava bean flour can adds a really nice rise, but has a distinct flavor. Those are the kinds of things that like if you're thinking about making your own little blend of flours, you kind of want to think about, okay, well, I'll add something that has a rise and then also something that helps with moisture and then a third thing that I want in my blend. Let's see. Yeah, like quinoa. Despite its very distinct flavor, quinoa is another great medium-based flour that can work alone or in combo with other flours. It's nutritious, dense with minerals and vitamins, and produce a great texture. So there's all these different things you can think about. So like coconut flour, I know that's one that Alex mentioned. So it's going to have a lot of flavor, but it will also like suck all the moisture out of something. So if you're using it, you probably want to, as the site mentions, use it in smaller amounts and perhaps maybe adjust the moisture of the recipe. So that's like if you've tried different gluten-free blends and you're not happy with it, or maybe you have, let's say the Trader Joe's blend, and you're like, well, when I try it with this thing, it makes really dense. Then you could think about looking through this list and look for a flour that adds rise, and then play around with like, okay, maybe next time when it calls for a cup of flour, I'll use 3/4 of a cup of the Trader Joe's blend and add 1/4 of a cup of this flour that adds rise. But it's experimentation. I would say Bob's Bread and Mail has a 1-to-1 flour blend. Cup for Cup is mentioned in the chat, Christine. That is a great one. It's expensive though, because we looked into it when I worked at a bakery. But if you are really looking for something, I think Thomas Keller created that, and like it's supposed to be a really truly cup for cup blend. And then I would also maybe check out King Arthur with their gluten-free blend, because I'm gonna remove this now. Okay, because it King Arthur, like sometimes their recipes are a little bland to me, or like a little vanilla, but I feel like they do their due diligence in terms of research and testing, so I feel comfortable referencing them. So they have a blend, and they have some information on their site too about gluten free. But I just think with gluten free flour, if you're really into baking and you want to play around with making your own blend, there's definitely a lot of information out there. Otherwise, you're probably going to end up having to spend some money on finding a blend that's going to work for you, like a pre-made blend. Yeah, they're all really expensive, you know. And the other thing is that I would say, in terms of picking things to try out, if you buy a blend, I think things like, again, banana bread, brownies, things that have a lot of flavor, because like that website was talking about, a lot of these different gluten-free flours that we're using have a lot more flavor to them than wheat. Bleached white wheat has like no flavor. So the way in which like a whole wheat bread has a lot more flavor to it than a white bread, a lot of these like gluten-free blends, whether it's something you pre-bought or something that you make, are going to have a little bit more like body and flavor to them. So I would personally try it with, like I said, something that has a lot more flavor to it. A brownie, because you have the chocolate in there. The banana bread, because you have banana, or like maybe like a pumpkin bread or something. I'm trying to think of what else I would try it in. I'll probably think of other things, but things that have like some punch to them, so that if you're, I wouldn't try it with like, I'm gonna make vanilla cake with my gluten-free flour blend. Maybe once you're more familiar with the blend and you kind of know and trust it, that's what I would try that. But for the first couple of bakes, I would pick something that's like high flavor, if that makes sense. Let's see. Ooh, Treebird mentioned maple glazed tofu with hot sauce is really nice. That sounds amazing. Glazed anything is like a great texture combination. Okay, so I kind of went on my little gluten-free baking rabbit hole. Treebirds asked, have you ever baked with cricket flour? I know that it's pretty sustainable and I want to try it. I would totally be willing to bake with it. I haven't tried it. If memory serves me right, like crickets are very high in protein. So I feel like it can be a cool flour to try kind of fortifying a flour blend with, because then you could make, like I could see it working in like a kind of oat snack bar thing, or something like that, where you want to like add a little bit more of that protein so that it's something that sticks with you longer. But I haven't personally worked with it. Oh, wait, that's a great mention. Okay, Fefi says, my bananas are not ripe enough for banana bread, but but I forget to eat them so often that that won't be a problem for a few days. So if you have bananas and you like want to make banana bread, but they're still pretty underripe, what I would do, okay, here's the thing. I don't actually love bananas. I'm an odd human being in that I really like banana candy. I like a banana's Foster, like a caramelized banana, but I I haven't made banana bread at home in like years. But if I had bananas and I wanted to make them, I would put the bananas in the freezer. I put them in whole, and basically what happens is that the peeling on the outside just turns black and the inside turns into literal goo. It's kind of gross if you have a texture, if you're not a fan of those kind of textures, but that'll happen. And then you take it out and you basically can just peel off the peeling and put that, like frozen banana that will soon soften into goo into your bowl and have banana bread pretty quickly, faster than perhaps waiting around for the banana to ripen naturally. So that's a good thing if you have a tendency to like forget about the bananas and then they go too far and then you maybe have to throw them away because now they've turned a corner from ripe to molded. Something to think about. So that's my little banana trick. And then Bonnie asked, favorite meal to cook and favorite spices. Tyrion being Tyrion. Favorite meal to cook, favorite spices to use. Meals? Okay. This is super corny, but like just cooking with my friends is my favorite thing to do. When this shit is all over, that's what I'm looking forward to. Like Christmas Day, my friend Sarah and I and our third mutual friend, we made homemade hand pulled noodles with like a lamb, like basically I think it's bang bang, but like making hand pulled noodles like with a friend, that was so much fun. So I really like cooking with other people or around other people because sometimes I can't be a backseat driver, or sometimes I can be a backseat driver when someone else is cooking. But if it's a team effort, it's really fun. Um, but in terms of spices, I want to talk about there are some spices that I love to use, which are things like paprika, which I mentioned, but I love smoked paprika. So like hot smoked paprika or sweet smoked paprika, basically like a more subtle paprika or more like spicy one. I love both of those. Garlic powder, of course. Cardamom, amazing. I love cardamom, especially in desserts. But I think there are um, two spices that I kind of feel like are underrated, and that is Zaatar and sumac. So my Arab is coming out. Hi. Sumac to me is like powdered lemon. Like it's a spice. It's a spice, but it has a very tart flavor to it, and it's both of these are something I would finish with. I wouldn't necessarily cook with them. I would finish with them. So if if you don't have anything like lemony in the house and you have made something and you're like, oh, it's missing something, like sprinkle a shit ton of sumac on it and it's so good. And then za'atar is, people call it thyme. It's not really thyme. Like if you're in an Arab country, it's the herb is za'atar, but it's that herb with like sesame and I feel like there's something else that I'm gonna forget about. Um, but you could also make it with other seeds probably. Like if you want to make your own blend, because I know there was somebody with a sesame allergy. I bet you could do it with like everything but the sesame, or maybe with like sunflower seeds. I feel like you could change it up and do something else. And it's just like herby and very flavorful. It really pairs really nicely with olive oil. It also adds texture because it is sesame seeds. So I don't know, I could eat it on everything. Let me see. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm going to go back to bananas. Pam said banana flavor in candy is representative of bananas that the US used to have before they died due to disease. See, that's the thing, is that one of these days I really want to travel pretty much all over the world and try like fruits, especially fruits like everywhere, because I've heard bananas outside of the US are fucking amazing. And I'm thinking like Southeast Asia in that general area. Um, and yes, banana, if you put fruit in a closed brown bag, it should help ripen faster. Yes, Zaatar also has a tanginess to it. It's like herby and tangy and yeah. Oh, Feffy says sumac is another thing I know because of the BA test kitchen. It sounds great. It's really nice. It's just it's a great finishing thing. Like I said, if you just feel like it's missing something, it's so good on yogurt. It's really good, honestly, on anything like roasted vegetables. It's just a great topping. I mean, I could eat it on a lot of things. Stinky eggs. Zaatar's on the list of things to try to make on my own without the sesame. I definitely think you could play around with. I'm almost. This might be blasphemous, but you might be able to play around with something like a chia seed or a flax seed. Maybe. I don't know. That might be a terrible idea. So I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. um, Janessa, I read a book about fruit tourism. It was fascinating. That would be a dream travel experience. Oh my gosh. So I went to Cartagena, Colombia. It's been like 4 years ago now because it came up on my like Instagram time travel, whatever, TBT. And I'm not like a big group tour kind of person, but in Cartagena, there's this great group called Cartagena Connections, and they do like a street food tour. Oh, it's so good. And during that, the tour guide, she was like a Australian that moved to Colombia and like visited Colombia, fell in love with it, and like moved there and is like trying to basically help the smaller actual local, you know, citizens flourish as best they can with her tours. What am I trying to say? With her tours, not tourism, with her tours. And we were walking through a market and she's like, we have to stop here and get this fruit. And it was basically like, I have to look up what it was, but it reminded me of passion fruit in texture and flavor, but it was even more like, there was something about it that it was like this bomb in your mouth. Like it had a very like soft texture. I have to look it up. I'm not describing it very well. It wasn't passion fruit, but it was something local to that area. And I just think about that sometimes and I'm like, I need to go more places and eat more local fruit and vegetables. Stinky eggs. Ooh, I like that idea. Yeah, give it a try. Don't make a huge batch. Just like get the herbs that you need and then, mix up a little bit and see what you think about it. I use chia and flax a lot in like I'll make savory granolas and I feel like they're pretty subtle in there because you have other flavors. On their own, I don't know, might be great. Okay. Now, just a couple more things. So, Teresa, Miss Neon Raccoon Beauty, who has a great channel here on YouTube, asked about whole wheat flour cookie ideas. So I found a lot of tips about baking with whole wheat, and I think the best thing I would say is that you could theoretically use most good cookie recipes and use whole wheat flour or use a blend of whole wheat and all-purpose flour, but you might want to let that cookie dough rest for a longer period of time because basically you need to let the flour kind of hydrate, let the dough hydrate. Oh, Chris, thank you for the soup. Ah, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you all for hanging out with me while I get nerdy about food. I'm blushing. I'm all warm. um, so with whole wheat flour, I think what it is that the, I think it's the grains or like the particles are bigger. So it's going to take more time for the, like that thing to like to oh my gosh, to get the moisture in. I didn't read that article very well. I was just like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Let it hydrate longer. So basically just let your cookie doughs rest. Meaning take, if you make it and if you want to make it ahead of time, I mean cookie dough can honestly sit in the fridge. Especially something like a chocolate chip or oatmeal cookie dough can sit in the fridge for like a day or longer and you're good. Yes, thank you, Christine. The fiber needs to be rehydrated longer. Thank you. I have these links that I could open up, but basically, oh wait, sorry. Yes, there. It's basically like I think of it as like dry skin versus oily skin. Whole wheat flour is dry skin. You got to give it some more hydration and let it like soak in and get that juiciness back. Tree birds. I went to Finland last summer and cloudberries are chef's kiss. Cloudberries? I don't know those. I'm going to look that up. Oh, and yes, white whole wheat. That's the other thing, is that if you really don't want to bake with all-purpose flour, I would look into getting white whole wheat or look into some whole wheat pastry flour, because pastry flours are usually finer ground, like, so that flour will rehydrate quicker, and it often just has a nicer final texture. So yeah, that's what I would say. I have some in my freeze that I should use more often. That was like from a local farm, a whole wheat pastry flour, and it really has a nice texture. But I would say if you really want all whole wheat, you're probably going to like you might want to add a little bit more egg in the recipe, or a little bit more fat or oil, or specifically look for some whole wheat cookie recipes. So I did link King Arthur Flour has a whole grain cookie recipe, and they also have a whole thing about whole grain baking with white whole wheat. Let's see. 3 days even, don't come for me. 3-day-old chocolate chip cookie dough makes the best flavor without playing chicken with icky microbes. Absolutely. There's a whole, when was it? There was a moment in time where there was this boom of like long batch, is what I'm going to call them, cookie doughs, because it was a test, and there was like the aging in the refrigerator made the chocolate chip cookie dough even better. It really does help. Like if you have some time to just let it chill out, it's so good. Oh, I've never had fresh lingonberries. Christine says, ooh, cloudberries are yum. Had them in Norway years ago, and lingonberries too. Oh, that's amazing. Courtney, oh, this food talk has me wondering if I'm the only snack in my house. You're definitely a snack, but I hope you have some other snacks to keep you company. But yeah, so I think whole wheat flour, it's kind of like the whole gluten-free thing. You want to use it in, like, I would say high flavor situations, because it has more nutty flavor to it and usually has like more texture. But if you're kind of used to that, then you may just want to play around with like how much water or like hydration is in the recipe. If you've made a cookie recipe and it seemed a little dry, I would say maybe try adding in another egg yolk, because egg yolk has the fat and a little bit of that hydration, whereas egg whites are all protein. So whenever I have a cookie dough, like if I've made a cookie and it feels a little bit dry or crumbly, I'll try to add in another yolk, and then it usually helps with the overall texture. Let me see if there was anything else with the whole wheat flour that I wanted to mention. And yeah, there's one of the links in the description box is like kind of describing the difference between whole wheat and white flour, and I thought that was pretty helpful. Let's see. Oh, and that's the other part, is that whole wheat flour has more protein in it. It has a higher protein content. So that's also why sometimes things made with whole wheat flour can seem like tougher, because that protein is what adds, I think of protein as like body. It adds that like body to it, which you don't always want in your baked goods. So I would say probably if you're testing out working with whole wheat flour with a recipe that you know works with all purpose, do a 50-50 blend and see what happens. Or, as we said, pick up some white whole wheat flour if you can find flour, because I know that's still a struggle out there right now. The last main question I have is from dear Kara C. She was asking me about cast iron pans and Dutch ovens, and if I had any tips and if they were as intimidating as they seem. I love my cast iron pan. I have a big one, like a 11-inch, or one of those like bigger than my head pans. And it's, so the thing with cast iron is that you're not supposed to wash it. Yes, that is true. But if you make something, perfect timing. Hey, Kara C. Welcome. Um, you did order your cast iron pan. Oh, look at that. So most cast iron pans that you're going to buy on the market now come pre-seasoned. Seasoning is basically that it's what makes cast iron so smooth. And that is something that, like, I think back in the olden days, they didn't come that way. You had to season them. As Pam says, I need to re-season my pans. It's something you do want to keep up with. And basically, so you're not supposed to wash cast iron because soap and water can break down that seasoning. Here's the thing though. If you make something in it and it's really, really like stuck on, I have gone in and soap and scrubbed my cast iron. Or I've even gone in with, like, I keep Bartender's Friend, which is just like a powdered cleanser. I keep that around. So sometimes I'll use that and with like a metal, it's not even metal, but the silver scrubby thing, and really clean it. Re-seasoning it is just, if you cleaned it, you can either turn your oven on or turn the heat on your stovetop onto low, add some oil to the pan, swirl it around. I would use probably a vegetable oil, an oil that doesn't have a flavor to it, and something that's high heat. So peanut oil, vegetable oil. You could use probably lard. You could probably use bacon fat because I'm sure that's what every Southern grandma has done their whole life. And you make sure it's nicely coated with the oil, and you just put it on that low heat for, I would say even just like 5 minutes. You could put it in the oven for 5 to 10 minutes. I don't do that every time I use it. But if I feel like I cleaned it and I don't feel like it's quite as smooth or shiny as it was before, I'll do that. So I'm with Christine. I wash mine with a soap toner Rebel. Exactly. Chris, it's called Bartender's Friend. I would show you, but I actually transferred it to just a plastic container, but it's in, like, it looks like a giant, like a tall boy of beer. And I think it's a gold packaging, and it's just a powder cleaner. It's probably like Comet, but I use it for my sink because I don't know if it's actually stainless steel, but it's metal and it just cleans it better. And I feel like it's a good substitute. So if you don't have that, you can use baking soda and a scrubby to, like, clean a cast iron. But honestly, I often wash it with soap. The main thing with washing with soap is you want to dry it out. That's what I missed. If you're washing it with soap or any kind of water, just dry everything off because the water is going to cause it to rust. So if you wash it with soap, dry it off. If you have time and you feel like it needs it, let it reseason. That's basically it. I love using it for I don't fry as much, but I would use it for frying. I make cornbread in it. You can bake a lot of things in it because it's like a nice space. I love using it for, like, if I'm cooking down onions or anything, like caramelizing onions or like frying them. I cook pretty much everything in it. The only thing I don't maybe cook in it are like tomato-y sauces because I know sometimes that acid can affect the cast iron, but I have cooked tomato sauces in it. I just wouldn't, like, put a tomato sauce in a cast iron pan and let it cook on the stove for 6 hours. Let's see. Oh, Christine, Bartender's Friend or Bon Ami. Exactly. Janessa, I have a clay Dutch oven that I got at TJ Maxx because I'm a trash that I use for Indian food. I'll mix a jar of tikka masala sauce with chicken and butter and squash. Yummy. There is nothing wrong with TJ Maxx. That is where I shop for home items. That is where it's at. In my opinion, that's the best place because things are overpriced all the time. And you can find, like, Dutch ovens, you can find pans. A lot of my stuff, actually, I don't think my cast iron pan is from TJ Maxx, but probably a lot of my other things are. And I just buy Lodge brand. It's not that expensive in the scheme of things. Yes, cornbread in a cast iron pan is the best. But also Janessa. Okay. Jar tikka masala sauce. So some of the links that I have in the description box are for Food 52. I'm just going to say, like, I can say it publicly. Like, I freelance with them. So, like, I'm a little biased, but I do feel like they are good information. Another brand that I work with, freelance with, is a brand called Brooklyn Deli like Delhi, India, and they make achars, which are like, okay, I'm gonna describe. They're spreads, they're condiments, but they're also technically pickles, but they're really condiments. They're not as pickly as what you think of pickles as, and they also make simmer sauces. They have a tikka masala one, a golden coconut curry one, and then like a dad's tomato curry, which is kind of like a chana masala base. They are so good. And I know I'm biased, but I was buying them before I ever worked with them. And they're on like Amazon Prime and Amazon, like regular Amazon. They're really great. I would say they're probably a little bit more expensive than some of the other jar sauces out there, but usually what I'll do is like almost double the amount of sauce you get by using another jar full of like water or water and milk or water and coconut milk to kind of make it go further. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, Chris, you never even thought about cornbread and cast iron. The crust, yes, the crust is perfection. It's so good. Janessa, I love the grocery section. I think she's talking about TJ Maxx. The only problem is that sometimes I find things I love and can never find them again. That's very true. I've definitely picked up like food products there. As long as it's before the expiration date, we're good. I've picked up spices there, oils. Like I said, as long as there's not like a close expiration date or things don't look off color, I'll shop in that grocery section. Also Dutch ovens. I didn't forget about that. So I actually was telling Kara this earlier today. I was like, if you don't have, oh, Brooklyn Deli is the brand. So I'll type it in the chat. Let's see. So in terms of Dutch ovens, so I really like Dutch ovens because you can, again, you can fry in them and you can actually do a deeper fry because they're taller. And basically a Dutch oven is just a big, it looks like almost like a stock pot. It's like Le Creuset, but you don't have to buy that brand. Like, go to your TJ Maxx. Well, you can't go to TJ Maxx or Marshalls right now, but look for other brands. Like as long as they're enamel or they make them cast iron, it's basically a very heavy pot with a lid. You can make soup, make stew, braise. You can use it on your stove top or put it in the oven. Said you can fry in it. You can bake bread in it. That's a popular thing. It's another just like heavy bottom pan or pot, and I appreciate a heavy bottom because similar. The good thing with both cast iron and Dutch ovens, and I didn't talk about this earlier, is that the heavy weight of the pan, the thickness of the material usually holds heat more evenly. So if you've ever had a pan or a pot that like, even though your stovetop is perfectly level, the heat is level, one side of the pan gets hotter or you get like hot spots in the pan, that's usually the material of the pan. So a cast iron skillet or a Dutch oven, sometimes they can take longer to heat up, but they hold the heat really evenly. They'll give you a really sear, like a really hard sear. Like if you want to like sear some meat, you use a cast iron. So good. Or a Dutch oven technically would work. Kara asked, does it matter if it has a glass lid? It shouldn't matter. As long as it says it's oven safe, which it should be if they're calling it a Dutch oven, a glass lid with like a metal handle should be fine. And that's probably going to be a little lighter than having one of those heavy enamel lids, because that's the downfall of like a Dutch oven and a cast iron pan, is it can get heavy. Like when I cook in my cast iron, sometimes it can be hard to like lift it and pour it. So yeah, a glass lid shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, as Christine said, they're a good arm workout too. Exactly. So yeah, so I think if you're like building out your kitchen and you're debating between a Dutch oven and a cast iron skillet, I love my cast iron skillet, but I think a Dutch oven might be more helpful because then you can also like boil water for pasta or anything like that. But if you're just like wanting to play around with maybe having just a really good quality skillet, go for the cast iron. Both of them you can usually find at some pretty good prices. Like I said, TJ Maxx, whatever. Yes, I mean, if it doesn't specifically say oven safe, glass lids can be tricky, but I think. Oh, that is silly. Kara said, I'll be sure to check the heat rating. They had a cast iron pan that was only good up to 350. Yeah, no, that's terribly silly. So one of the recipes I made recently, which again is from Food 52, but it's from King Arthur Flour and Food 52. It's so good. There is a cast iron skillet pizza. It is so good. But yeah, if you could only go up to 350, you're not gonna be able to get it hot enough to get basically what happens is you get this like nice caramelized crust and you put a lot of cheese on it and you get cheese like on the outside edges of the crust. That's really good. Yeah, it just depends. Christine said she's a little paranoid about the heat things. I totally get that. I think you have to be careful, with glass, but I generally think as long as you check it, like Kara was saying, you should be fine. Um, so yeah, I think that was is that my only Dutch oven tips? Yeah, I mean with Dutch ovens, if they're enamel, you can wash them with soap and water like a regular pot. With those kind of Dutch ovens though, you don't want to use one of those scrubby pads really because you can start breaking up the enamel, which is not ideal, especially if you're going to be like, I'm investing in this thing that's going to last me forever, and then the bottom of the pan gets like kind of scratched up or chippy or things like that. So I think that was all of the questions that I had pre-researched. I'm very thirsty now. Canadian Tire. I don't know what that is, but I love a place that has a good crazy sale. That makes me very happy. I would say, yeah, if you have money to spend and you're thinking about like adding to your kitchen supplies, give it a little time. Everyone's going to be having sales, and you probably can get some good things on sale if you can afford it. You know, I like, where else would I look? I mean, I would even look places like Overstock or, I don't know. Where do I shop online for home stuff? I don't know. I tend to go in store, which is unfortunate because that's not a thing right now. Anyway, how's everybody doing? Does anybody want to ask me any other questions or throw any other random topics my way? Otherwise, just hanging out. Oh yeah, so Sur la Table is on sale. Yes. Janessa, I'm searching out Brooklyn Deli and I'm already drooling. Oh, they're really great. Like I said, I've been a fan of them for a long time, long before I was working with them. Christine, I want a really nice Dutch oven and the Viziart Grand Pro 3 for my birthday. Oh my god, the Grand Pro 3. I've had that on my mind lately. Don't need it, not buying it. But I'm sad that it was on sale for $100 at Beautylish, like in the last month at some point in time. Couldn't afford it then. Can't really afford it now, but still want it. But anyway, Feffy. Speaking of receptacles for cooking or baking, do you have any tips for baking on a glass pan versus a metal one? So the nice thing about glass is that you can see like the progress. I think metal is generally preferred because I think it just transfers the heat a little bit more evenly. Let me see let's see, glass versus metal baking. Because I know there are different tips out there. Okay, actually, so I think with glass, if you notice things are baking too quickly, you may want to drop the heat of your oven like by 15 to 25 degrees and just see if that helps kind of slow it down, because that can be something that happens. Let's see. And I know different recipes have different things. So I would say, like, if you are like somebody like Stella Parks, she's probably going to tell you the pan to use, like the material and the size. It's possible she's even written about why she's made that choice. So I would say, like, you want to take a look at specifically different things that were dictated by the cookbook author or the recipe writer. And my best recommendation for anyone that's like new to cooking or unsure about cooking is to find some people that you trust. Like don't just pick any Instagram bitch or any like Pinterest, but like I know I'm judgy, but there's a lot of people writing really bad recipes out there. And I'm somebody that has edited recipes professionally, written them kind of professionally. Like, there are some bad recipes out there if you just like blindly Google. The top result in Google does not mean it's the best recipe you should pick. That's the other thing. I'm a little bit more biased towards like picking something from like a site like a Serious Eats or a Food 52 or a King Arthur Flour or a even New York Times or like something like that over just the top Google hit. So Kara says she's decided she wants some really random things like a salt keeper and a lemon zester. I mean, a fruit zester, a peeler zester is totally like, I think it's a basic thing for me. Maybe you're describing something that's more particular than what I'm thinking about. But I also have a salt keeper. I got a little like cute container at Target that had a lid from that Opal House brand, and now it's my salt keeper. It's very handy. Oh, Christine is correct. Nordstrom Rack does have some good deals for home stuff. Oh, Stinky Eggs, you're saying my okay. Stinky Eggs asked, I was wondering if you make any other Palestinian dishes. I always want to make knafe. It looks so good. Okay. I know as earlier talking about marshmallows, like they are my like heart and soul, but knafe is my heart and soul. So if you've never had knafe, it is a dessert that is a traditional Palestinian dessert. So basically there's 3 layers. The top and the bottom layer are shredded katifa dough, which is kind of similar to phyllo dough, but like little noodles. It's not really phyllo dough, but it's made by the same company, so that's why I compare them. So you have those like noodles, that dough. You toast it in a lot of butter. You do a layer of those noodles. Then you do a mixture of, usually it's like a chewy, stringy cheese and a soft, creamy cheese. So if you're in the US and you don't have access to a lot of like cheese shops, you could use mozzarella and ricotta and mix them together. A lot of times it's like farmer's cheese, like the creamy farmer's cheese, and like cheese curds or Nablus cheese. So it's just like the 2 textures together is what you really want, and you mix it together. Usually there's a, so the way, if I was making it, or the way like I remember being made, is like there's a little bit of sugar in the cheese and usually a little bit of orange blossom water, but not a lot. So the base of it is fairly savory. So basically you do the noodly butter noodle layer, the cheese and more noodles. Usually we top the whole thing with like some almonds and pistachios and just different like little toasted nuts. You bake that. Actually, I did that in the inverse order. You put the nuts in the bottom of the pan and then you layer it, because then when you're done, you're actually going to flip it out. So you do that, you bake it. While it's baking, you make a really rich sugar syrup, and that's where you can add more orange blossom water, or some people use rose water in that sugar syrup. When it comes out of the oven, you flip it out of the pan, you cut it up, and then, so some people when they serve it, they soak the whole thing in the sugar syrup. My family, we would always just cut it up and everyone kind of adds however much syrup they want, because then you can make it like super sweet if that's what you want, or you can make it a little bit more balanced. It is so good, but I've actually struggled to make like a really good one at home. I'll be honest. And I will also admit that the ones that they sell at Trader Joe's, because they've started selling them lately in the freezer section, are not bad. They're not bad. They're not like, amazing homemade, but they're not bad. And that's coming from me and a couple of other like Arabs and Palestinians, because we had it at a like a dinner party together before everything went down. It's really good. Um, there's so many comments, but I just want to finish. In terms of other Palestinian food, I mean I love hummus. I love falafel, but I don't fry it home very often. I really love like bamia, and basically there's a lot of like stewed vegetable dishes, usually like green beans and onions and garlic and tomatoes all stewed together, or okra and onions and garlic and tomatoes all stewed together. I don't, there's just something so comforting about that. Like spinach pies and meat pies. Oh, moussaka. Has anybody had that? Does anybody know what this is? I'm gonna quickly scroll through. So moussaka is a chicken dish. It's basically like bread, chicken, onions, and sumac, and that's where my love of sumac probably came from. So the way that I see most people make it is that you have like pita bread or any kind of like flat bread, and you do a roasted chicken, spice it up, um, and you cook a lot of onions on the, usually on the stovetop with lots of sumac, and then you kind of like plate it all together. You have the bread that's like toasted, you put some chicken on top, you put your onions with lots of sumac, you can add some toasted um, pine nuts or like almonds. It's so good all together because everything just like mingles. Okay, I'm way behind on the chat, but let me just finish describing this. It's amazing. If you're a chicken person and you're an onion person, you have to try it. It's so good. I will try to remember to add a link to a couple of recipes in the description box later. Audra just said, this is so fascinating. Always focus on making super quick protein meals. Yeah, I feel like, if you're looking for super quick protein, I'm going to think on that and see if any ideas pop up. Tree birds, the best defense of cast iron skillet is its effective self-defense. Fair. Let's see. Pam mentioned oven types. That's a good topic. I'm going to think about that and see if I have enough info in my brain. Janessa, I'm from North Dakota, so it's tough to get a variety of ethnic cooking options locally. We have one pretty good Asian grocery, but they tend to have more ingredients than pre-made sauces. I mean, that's fair. You just have to get to know like simple sauces that you can make from the ingredients. Let's see. Feffy said, oh, maybe that's why one time we baked a cake in a glass pan and it deflated. Yeah, so it's possible that the outside cooked and the inside was still raw, so it looked like it was done, but when you took it out of the oven, the more raw inside like just kind of collapsed in on itself. So I would say you definitely want to lower that temperature and then also do a little test with like a toothpick or a thin knife in the center. Let's see. I love all the cheese love and the drooling over the knafa. Thank you. Oh, bye, Pam. Sorry I missed your exit. Courtney, I swear I'm about to go eat cheese out of the bag because I've heard the word cheese too many times. Sorry. Halloumi. Oh, halloumi and peppers. Like pan frying halloumi is amazing. Let's see. Kara, sorry to go back to Dutch ovens for a second. What size would you recommend? I don't know what quart is, let alone how many I need. Are there any? Yeah, I would say 6 or 7 quarts. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yes, when it's safe, I want to cook for everybody. Oh, Alicia, Audra, same. I'm absorbing all this cool knowledge. Thank you. Or the cook knowledge, yes. I like Feffy. If you don't have a Pat McGrath palette, you can just fend off intruders with a cast iron skillet. Yeah, cast iron skillet's probably like 2 Pat McGrath palettes, maybe 3. Yeah, maybe. And then there was a question earlier that I just skipped over, that I'm going to go back to. It's from Visions of You. Mixing interests. Do you own any food-themed makeup or thoughts on food-themed makeup? So I don't own. I don't own any of the Glamlight food palettes. And do I own? Is there anybody else making? Oh, the only one that I own is the Tasty Avocado palette from Makeup Revolution, which I think is a very mediocre to kind of regret buying it palette, but I mean, it wasn't that expensive. But so the Glamlight thing is interesting, like them in particular, because I just think that there's a lot of like, I don't know. I hear good things about their formula. I've tried one of their palettes. I'm losing my voice, or not losing my voice, but need a little break. I don't know. I don't really like photorealistic food on packaging. I think like cutesy things like, candy or cookies or whatever is like kind of cute, but it's just weird, I think. And something that now is stuck in my brain. I'm not vegan, but I was watching Julia K. March and Faces by Gina. They've been doing some IG lives recently and talking about like new releases, and I was watching theirs yesterday, and Julia is vegan, and she was saying like, for her, Glamlight is promoting a vegan eyeshadow formula, but they're putting it on packaging that has like photorealistic meat and naming things like carnitas. And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. I definitely think if I wasn't a meat eater, that I would never ever think to buy from that brand. As somebody who does eat meat, I just haven't felt enough draw to want the ridiculous packaging. I think that it just feels kind of gimmicky. And then I also think about like Mia made a really good point early on when like the pizza palette and the burger palette was out, is that like for her and for a lot of people that have or eating disorders or have kind of have had eating disorders in their past, mixing food and makeup feels really uncomfortable because it's like makeup is a happy place and maybe you're still struggling with things, because I'm personally of the belief that if you had an eating disorder, it's there's like you always kind of have it, you're just in different stages. As somebody who also has struggled with eating and has some eating disorder related things happening in their life, so I just don't know if I love the mix of the two things. And yeah, I think for me with like, okay, so Bombshell Cosmetica they did a burger palette and a milkshake palette. I felt like the packaging on that was kind of bad. They were like palettes that totally separated, like they didn't hinge, the lid and the bottom separated. Hated that packaging. Felt like they were bad shapes and kind of weird color stories. The Glamlight like burger palette was probably the first color story I was really drawn to, but I thought the packaging was terrible and bulky. And everything else they've made since then, I'm not that impressed with like the colors, so I don't really want to support the weird photorealistic food with makeup. So I don't know, maybe it's kind of like judgy to be like, I like cutesy food with makeup, but not photorealistic. But I don't really want to have like a street taco palette in my collection, especially when the colors aren't even that cute. Um, Anyway, Audra said she's making eggs now. Eggs are just my fallback. They really are. Like I can always pair eggs with something else in my house, and it makes me happy. You really can't go wrong, in my opinion. True birds. I need to get more into eggs. They're probably the most overlooked food in my cooking. I just love them because they're fast and you can do different techniques depending on what you're in the mood for. Janessa, I'm a fan of Glamlight formula, especially that gorgeous greens and the burger palette. Yeah, I like the color story of the burger palette. She's also easily drawn in by highly stylized packaging. I do like a really like a brand that knows their style and really goes for it. But I guess okay, the thing is that I don't feel like the burger packaging or the pizza packaging is like that special because they just bought a high resolution stock image and printed it on packaging. That's my take on that. Like it doesn't feel that special. It just feels like, okay, you got a nice juicy burger photo or vector illustration and you printed it onto packaging. I mean, you did some squishy top and bottom bun. That's cute, but it just doesn't quite do it for me. Oh my gosh, Audra, you are right. Especially cage-free large brown eggs, they hit differently. Cage-free eggs, it's like it's the thing I was talking about with meat. It's like I like to spend just a little bit more on like my eggs and a little bit more on my meat, and it makes me very happy. And I can taste the difference. Feffy, oh, that's such a good point. Also, you never know as someone with an ED if a brand is going to promote food makeup with an insensitive remark like, "This one isn't bad for you." Yes, okay, that's like such a core part of it for me. because I've worked so hard, and I still struggle with it, to not view food as a good thing or a bad thing, a guilty thing, or like an indulgent thing, or this or that. Like, I worked really hard to not view food as a reward or a punishment, or I deserve this or I don't deserve this. And there's something about mixing it with makeup that I think it crosses those lines in my brain a little too much, and I don't really want to do with that. And Christine, I agree with that. I go through eating difficulty flares. It always stays with you. You just got to learn to manage it. Exactly. And I'm sorry uh, if this triggered anybody. I just realized that because, yeah, I know it's a thing. Ooh, good eggs are noticeable from Christine. Yes. In this household, we stand eggs. Yes, Feffy. I agree with that. Yes, with eggs, you can throw in any kind of leftovers. Yeah, any leftover like veggies you have. I also always try to keep like scallions or mostly scallions, but sometimes chives in my refrigerator because that's such an easy thing to like chop into. It's not a really dense green veggie, but at least it's a little something. Courtney, if I'm not having an egg Sammy, it's grilled cheese. I stand carbs. And then Treebird said pasta and garlic are my soul foods. Yeah, see, if I'm not having like eggs, I'm probably having something pasta related. Although lately I have been more into rice than I used to be. Um, although yeah, Stan, I don't love that word, but ooh, eggs with capers. Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, caper. There's so many things. Okay, that's one of the things I feel like condiments are underrated in how they can make your cooking go from feeling basic to way more like pumped up. And I think of like, I know capers aren't technically a condiment, but I think of capers that way, or olives. I think of things like the Brooklyn Deli like achars that I was talking about, or a good a good mustard, or like a hot sauces, barbecue sauces, whatever like you're drawn to. There's so many things out there that you can just keep on hand. That's why I always love having like fish sauce and soy sauce and different things that I can just take a really basic food and eat it over and over again because I'm able to prepare it in different ways, or basically just dress it in different ways. Karate, I'm addicted to frittatas, and not just because tatas is in the name. I don't. I've kind of grown. I don't dislike frittatas, but I've kind of grown out of love with them. But I think it's because usually I cook them just a little bit too far, and they almost hit the rubbery point for me. But I just need to make them more often. And Feffy, my aunt has an egg person. She's got chickens, and they're amazing. We're always asking her to hook us up. Oh, that's amazing. I've known some people in Brooklyn that have had like chickens. It's something you can actually do. Treebird. Some of my friends don't like olives, and I just don't understand. I'm with you. Being an Arab, I had no choice but to like olives. I do tend to prefer green olives over black olives, but I just love olives. I love like salty, umami packed foods. Like that's why I've grown to really love miso, capers, olives. I'm missing a million other things, but oh yeah, a frittata with roasted potatoes. That's a great idea. Courtney, speaking of grilled cheese with pesto is amazing. Of course, pesto is another great condiment to keep. And the thing is that like I think a lot of us when we start to cook, we think that like, oh, the people on Bon Appetit make their pesto from scratch, so I have to do that. Or, oh, my cookbook tells me to like, here's a reference for the sauce. You can use store-bought stuff. Like if it just gets you cooking, like use store-bought stuff. Like buy the stuff that you can afford that also seems to have the best ingredients for what you like. But like don't not cook because you feel like you can't do it 100%, because any cooking you're doing is 100%. Local eggs are the best eggs. Yes. Olives are polarizing. They definitely are. Oh, Kara, her stomach rebels from potatoes. Yeah, that can be tough. That can be tough. But frittatas are good. Frittatas are another great way to use up your leftovers, random veggies you have that you've already cooked or that are just lingering in your fridge. I'm all about the like, some of my favorite things to make are like leftover foods, meaning I can make a pot of chili with like a bunch of random shit from my fridge. I can make a pasta salad, a frittata, I don't know, a scramble, like a stir fry. Just find all the scraps in your fridge and put it together. Alicia, thank you so much. You had to head in the shower. Thank you for all the cooked gems you dropped. You're so welcome. Anytime. Courtney, I want to make a pizza grilled cheese. Oh, you would love that that pan pizza because it has like the gooey, it has like crispy cheese on the edges and gooey cheese inside. Ooh, I had one from a food truck once, life changing. I bet. Ooh, tree birds. My mom makes a really good veggie chili with bulgur wheat. I don't cook enough with like bulgur and some of the other kind of whole grain things. I have them. I should play with them more. Janessa, I like to buy sauces, and then as I get more familiar with it, I start to add, change it up, and sometimes move on to try to make my own version. Exactly. You can totally like buy your tomato sauce or your spaghetti sauce or buy your curry, simmer sauces or whatever it is. If you just feel like you can't get started, that can be a great way to start. I mean, even sometimes just like buying like a frozen bag of stir fry whatever at Trader Joe's and like doctoring it up however you want to. Like people try to like shame or like kind of impress everybody with like how homemade things are, but like it doesn't fucking matter. If you feel like you can just be a capable human in the kitchen, that's all. I feel like that's all that like I want to imbue into people. It's kind of like how I feel with makeup, where I'm like there aren't like there just like do what makes you happy. And if you're one of those people that like cooking just doesn't make you happy, I get that too. I totally get it. I don't think everyone needs to love cooking or love baking. You just gotta like be. I hope you can feed yourself though. That's what I hope. Kara, I need to learn more mains. I've been deserting my butt off lately, even though I don't tend to eat them. I mean, what kind of mains like would you want to learn, or what kind of foods do you like to eat that you would like to like diversify how you make them? I can help with that. Stinky eggs. I felt bad about not making my own spaghetti sauce, but I just never like it. I refused to eat pasta sauce for years, so I'll just stick with my classico sauce. Exactly. Like, there's no problem with that. Kara, Bennett licked the icing off a dozen cupcakes tonight. We left him unattended for 30 seconds and he stole them and hid in the basement to lick them. Oh, my dear Kara. Bennett is adorable, but like the most handful of handfuls that I've ever had the experience of interacting with in any capacity. His own birthday cupcakes. Half were left, and then he licked them all. Little bugger. He just claimed his territory. He's like, these are all mine. Courtney, cooking doesn't make me happy. Eating is what I'm good at. But it works since I have friends that enjoy cooking for others. Exactly. Like, that's why we like to cook for people. I mean, I like to cook and I like to eat, but being able, that's why earlier when people asked like my favorite meal, I'm like, I just want to be able to cook for/with other people soon. And Courtney, I know enough not to starve. Exactly. Karen, this is why I have so much gray hair. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Although you're cute. You're cute with your gray hair. It's completely bougie and extra, but have you ever made homemade pet food? I have not made homemade pet food, but I'm not against feeding my cats some sardines or tuna from the can if I am a little short on, like, if I'm like, oh shit, I'm out of cat food and I need to go pick some up. If I have something like that in the pantry, I will open that up and give that to them. And Audra's like, yeah, well, of course Bo Bear gets homemade dog food. No, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think that there are ways to do it that like make sense, and I mean, if they're your pet, and you want to do that, go for it. I don't think there's anything wrong if it makes you happy. I know I was watching, oh God, speaking of like an OG YouTuber, Coffee Break with Danny, and I know she's been like she'll use her Instant Pot and just like basically steam some cheap or like lower quality cuts of meat, like some of the tougher meats, and use that and serve her dog, like feed that to her dogs because they're all older and like kind of geriatric. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet and kind of smart. Christine, I dog sit and raw / homemade dog food is popular. I've noticed that. Like, I'm not a dog sitter, but I've noticed an uptick in brands that are making it, and then like an uptick in like refrigerated cases in pet food aisles. Only the best for Bo. Luna stole a cupcake today too. My household is insane. Kara, are you enjoying some vodka right now? You deserve it. Stinky eggs. I once had to feed my cat a McDonald's burger because I didn't realize it was out of cat food and all the stores were closed. I've never been more ashamed. That's kind of what happened to me. Like, you think New York is a city that never sleeps, but it is, and especially in my pocket of Brooklyn, like I've had that realization because I have an automatic feeder, but if I empty the bag into the feeder and don't forget to reorder it, yeah, I've been that mom. I've been that cat mom before. But they never go hungry. I always figure out something. But yeah. Audra, I make him a special treat every so often. I think that's so cute. I mean, it's like the bakeries that sell the dog biscuits and dog treat, like those things. I think that's so adorable. Sticky eggs. He was happy about it though. He should be. It's a McDonald's burger. Rum, I'm drunk. Drunk. Chewy saved my ass. Yeah, Chewy's good too. I thought about drinking during the stream, and I was like, no, I have too much stuff to talk about, too many links. I don't want to be a mess because I will turn into a mess. Feffy, I'm so glad my dog is tiny and can't reach anything. You steal so much food. Yeah, my cat Tyrion. So I have two cats. I have Veronica and Tyrion. If you've seen them on camera, Veronica's the black and white. My baby cow is what I call her because she is. Let me just say goodbye. Bye, Janessa. Thank you for your tips and tricks and thank you for hanging out. Have a good night. We'll go back to my cats. Veronica's pretty well behaved. She won't she'll sniff things. Like if I have I was eating something the other day and I had a bowl and she just was sniffing it. And I'll just tell her no and she'll back away. Tyrion, who must know I'm talking shit about him because he just came over, will literally take it in front of you. I have had to just constantly, because I'm if I'm sitting here and working on something and eating, he'll just come over and just constantly try to grab at it. He will lick butter if it's sitting out. He will eat anything and everything. And yeah, that's fun. That's real fun. Feffy, my dog would eat 24/7 if she could, yes. And yes, Tyrion always honors his name. I mean, I should have known what I was doing when I named him that, but we make mistakes sometimes. We learn from them, though. I kind of knew when I met him, though, that he was a Tyrion, but he's fallen right into it. Once he realized that, similar to how, teenage, I don't know, brats realize that they can rock a vending machine to get snacks to fall out. He has realized that the feeder, he can rock it and it will let some of the little bits of food that are at the base that haven't fallen completely out will come out. He will do that some nights. When he's had plenty of food, he will just randomly be over there just trying to. I'm like, you've literally eaten an hour ago. There's plenty of food. You always eat. What is wrong with you? Luna only steals from Bennett. She'll snatch it right out of his hand and he thinks it's hysterical. Okay, that's adorable. I'm glad he thinks it's hysterical. That's amazing. My cat pretends to cuddle with me to steal my food. Same, Stinky egg, same. Tyrion will come up and just be like, oh yeah, I'm just saying hi and hanging out. And then I turn away for a second and he's off and he has a bite of my dinner in his mouth. Bowie, my leftover hot wings. He's currently in trouble. Oh no. Also, I feel Is hot sauce okay for dogs? Like their insides? I don't know. My brain went straight to that. But yeah, Bo's being a naughty boy. Courtney, my cat is the reason why I take care of dishes right away. Mac and cheese liquor. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there's dishes in the sink, he will go over and mm-hmm. I'm still not great at taking care of my dishes right away, but I try to be better. Luna will also eat the cat's food and then poop liquid for 2 days after. The learning curve is a flat line. There's no learning at all. Recently, I realized that I had some cans of wet cat food because I don't really feed them that. But I decided I would like take a gap and give them some. But the problem is that Veronica will just like slowly eat. She'll like eat a little bit of it and she'll want to come back to it. But even if it's 2 separate bowls, Tyrion will just try to eat it all. So I will have to like, once he eats all of his food and she's still like perusing, I'm literally just like holding him in my arms like, you got to chill the hell out and give her space. It's like impossible. So that's also why I mainly just feed them dry food because it's easier. They just eat whatever they want and they don't have to fight each other. Exactly, Christine. That's going to be gross coming out the other end. Wait. His farts are weird. Otherwise, he seems fine. Oh my gosh. My cat loves salt and vinegar chips. I don't know why. Cornbread is the thing that I realized that, in particular, since I'm talking to Tyrion, this is the thing that he loves. I've made it twice, kind of recently. Both times, he is freaked the fuck out. Like the smell of it out of the oven. He is like so into it. Literally, a lot of times if he like keeps trying and I say no, and usually I won't spray him, but I will grab a spray bottle and like basically taunt him. He'll usually back off sometimes. Cornbread, he will stay over here and like bat my hand when I try to bat his away. It's ridiculous. Courtney, my cats are so weird. My fat cat barely touches wet food, and the skinny one munches all of it. Yeah, I think Veronica likes the wet food, but she just like slows it down and takes her time. The fat cat will literally lick the tuna liquid, but not eat the tuna. Mm-hmm. If I like some canned fish. I know not everybody's into that. I actually prefer like sardines and mackerel more than I like canned tuna. I don't really like canned tuna. But I will usually, like, if there's oil or liquid in the can, I'll usually, like, pour it out in a bowl and, like, sit it down for them to enjoy because usually they will, like, eat it up. And I'm like, it's a free little bonus for them. I mean, she's also overweight. I'm also overweight and picky, so I guess it makes sense. So since we're in, like, full pet talk, I had that realization twice now. There's either been somebody at my front door or somebody, like, out in the it's like a foyer area, but it's a space that really no one is coming in and out of except for like maybe my landlord or one of his like workers. But the doorbell rung once and I was like, both me and both my cats, we all like bristled and just like turned and looked at the door and we're like, who the fuck is there? And just kind of sat there for a moment and waited for the person to leave. Literally what we all three did. And I was like, oh, did I turn them into that? Did they turn me into that? I don't know. And the same when like there was some people working outside of my door for a longer period of time than they would normally ever do. For that whole like 30 minutes, we were just, all three of us were just like, who the fuck is out there? Oh my God, Christine, my dog ate a week's worth of food at once. She was so uncomfortable for a long time, but she'd 100% do it again. Oh, that sounds so uncomfortable. Stinky eggs. I don't know why they just gave me such a joy. My cat refuses to eat the tuna juice. He's too good for that. He knows I'm holding out on him and demands the fish. That's amazing. Also sounds very familiar. Yeah, doorbells should not exist. I'll die on that hill. Oh my gosh. And the plastic bag the food was in too. Okay, that sounds uncomfortable. Dogs, both highly intelligent and dumb. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of the animals that we have domesticized. Because my cats are smart motherfuckers, but then sometimes they're really dumb. Like Veronica loves foam, styrofoam, like anything foamy textured. I will think I've thrown it all away, and she will have like secretly dug it out of the trash for me, or like had some stashed away, and I just hear like crack, crack, crack. Like she just like chews on it like a literally like an animal. Yeah, I don't like the doorbell. And usually the delivery people will ring it, but they're not ringing it because they need me to sign something. I'm like, just leave the package there. Don't ring my doorbell. My cat Patches licks every single plastic bag that enters our house. Yeah, every bit of like foamy something Veronica will find in a box and chew. Like, I'm like, oh, I have it all set aside. I have it outside of her reach. No. 3 hours later, she's somehow gotten it. And I know it's probably not healthy long term. I'm a good cat mom. I'm just not always a great cat mom. Y'all have you make these chats so much fun every damn time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Oh my god, tree birds! Nothing is more gross. You realize your cat has licked all the cream cheese off your bagel when you weren't paying attention. Yeah, I've had that happen. Maybe not with cream cheese, but I've definitely had that happen. But it happened literally recently. Maybe it was butter. It might have been butter because I'm just like really into just like a good toast with butter kind of. I like other food, but like I love toasty carbs with butter. And I definitely have like turned and caught my like and just in the corner of my eye, just like lick, lick, lick on my bread. I'm like, you motherfucker. My cat took the leftover bun from my sister's hot dog earlier and ran into the hallway because carbs are life. Carbs are life. My cat, Freya. Oh, it's a great name too, Freya. Has a fuzzy blanket she loves to knead and eat bits of. I should see if I could find something that has like a kind of squishy texture, kind of like styrofoam or foam, that maybe is a little less dangerous than actual styrofoam. Great. Oh my gosh. And now we've entered the phase of me laughing so hard I can barely read things. Audra said, great. Bo just grown man farted. Bo just grown man farted. It's going to be a long night. Can you, like, no, because I know he wants to be with you. Like, can you separate him in another room? And be like, this is your punishment. You have to spend isolation time. Yeah, or face mask, bandana over your mouth, something. Cats are hilarious. I love them. Yeah, he sleeps in my bed. Truly, you would think I've been drinking from like how hilarious I'm finding these things, but you're truly just like tickling me out of hell. I mean, wait, Kara. I mean, I think that's up to like. That sounds like it's a consent question. Oh, that's a good call, poopery. I think all animals get farty because I've definitely had times where like I'll be hanging out with my cats and all of a sudden I smell something and I'm like, I know that wasn't me. I'm alone. If that was me, I would take the blame. That was not me. Oh, that's amazing. Jet propulsion farts. Luna's a special one too, Kara. Please, please do. Audra says, I swear I'm going to have a random 2 a.m. stream. I'll be here. That's my kind of thing. Tiny dogs, I feel like, are super smelly. Maybe it's just a tiny dog biased, but I feel like they're like extra smelly. Christine, my dog has liver treats that smell the same going in and coming out. I love that, like, we adopt or buy these pets. We pay for all their stuff, all of this, and yet we take all of this abuse, along with all the love, but all of the abuse. It's amazing. Exactly. Chris says, join Emily's live. We talk about cooking and farts. I mean, yeah, that's about right. Well, yeah. That's true. Like, I don't judge the farts themselves, but I'm just like, wow. For me, with the cats, they're like silent but deadly. Oh, I didn't know that was a thing, but I guess it is a thing. Or I've shared this in the Marco Polo that, like, me, Kara, Audra, and Chris Barker have. Veronica loves to lay on me, like, right here. I really want to figure out how to, like, train her to, like, lay around my shoulders, but I'm also afraid to get myself clawed up, so I just let her. She'll, like, just, like, lay right here. Usually it's one of two things. Usually her ass is, like, right in my face, or if she's decided to grace her face with my face, it's right after she's eaten. So it's like, oh, that's cat food breath right here. Okay, that's fun. Courtney, my cat thinks he can survive in this household with only cuddles and being cute, and he is absolutely right. Pretty much, yeah. Oh, Chris, I live with 3 grown men, so I understand. Yeah, I have 2 brothers and a dad, and growing up with those 3 male human beings, there was a lot of weird smells and sounds, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. Oh, Courtney, I mean, he's cleaning his toe beans right now. Yeah, they're both kind of running around. Not as maybe crazy as, was it 2 nights ago when I was filming? Absolute bonkers, crazy madness. I think I've said this in other lives, but like my apartment, I'm in a basement apartment. So like this kind of window that you see here, I have 4 of them on the other wall, 2 in this room and 2 in the bedroom. And I think the way that they're over there is like a driveway, and I think sometimes there are like stray cats. So they will be like in one window, they'll jump down, they'll go over to the other window, then they'll jump down, run around the room, go into that room, and go into the other window, the other window. There have been nights when they've just been doing that repetitively, both of them. And a lot of times there are nights when I'm filming, and I'm just like, I'm going to go absolutely insane. It's also why I feel like anytime somebody's like, have you thought about doing ASMR, which people have asked, I'm like, I feel like I wouldn't be very successful at filming that in my house because my cats would just be disturbing the peace all the time. Wait, Feffy. Wait, why isn't... Oh. I can't judge either. Trying different foods sometimes mean your body acting in mysterious ways. That's for sure. That's definitely true. Oh, Christine, my husband and I are also vegetarians. The little wind emojis. Yeah, I love like cabbage and cauliflower and broccoli and Brussels sprouts. And then sometimes I'm like, wow, I'm really glad I live alone because this is not pleasant. And this would not be pleasant for somebody else to smell right now. But it's like my favorite, it's truly some of my favorite vegetables. And they're like so sturdy and usually affordable, and they last in the fridge for a while. And yeah, so they are a true favorite. Broccoli's pretty bad, cabbage is pretty bad, but I just love it. It's such a good, even cabbage, so many people hate on it, but like a roasted or braised cabbage is really good. It behaves similar to a cauliflower or a broccoli in terms of the like caramelization and all of that. Y'all, it's been 2 hours. This has been, like I said, so much fun. Thank you so much for hanging out. Can I admit, Audra, kale? I don't really like kale. I will eat it. I will buy it and make it sometimes. I don't get the hype. I don't get the hype. I would rather buy cabbage over kale. And maybe it's because I'm a southern, from the south, but I prefer like collards over kale. Yeah, I don't get the hype. Um, Even kale chips, I'm like, there are better things to do with your time than bake kale. Like wash it and dry it off perfectly and then bake it. And there are better things to do with your time than make kale chips. And better things to do with your money than buy kale chips. Yes, I think I'm going to wrap it up because it has been over 2 hours. And well, there are 14 of you in here, which is like bonkers to me because I don't know. I never expected it really. Probably use a little bit of a breather from talking. Not doing a live with another person means a whole lot of talking. Speaking of, actually, I might as well just tell y'all now. Thursday night, we'll be doing 5 for 5 live with Audra on my channel. So I just kind of assume we're doing this Thursday, Audra. I hope that's still okay. So Audra and I have started 5 for 5 live. This was totally her idea, but it's a way for us to do reviews. We each talk about 5 products and we review it, and you get to ask all kinds of questions. Whatever questions you have about the product, how it compares to other things, whatever. And it's really nice having somebody else to bounce off like conversation with, and Audra's the best. So we'll be doing it I guess the same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, I think. Well, I'll put up a graphic soon. Maybe tomorrow I can get my shit together. But I'm excited to be doing lives. I've been excuse me. I'll probably be doing them a little bit more often. So if there's anything that you want me to talk about, either on a solo live or again with like me and Alex, sincerely Alex, and me and Audra, or I might try to rope in Kara if she's down, or whoever. Like, also, if you're watching and you ever want to jump in or something, let me know. Oh, speaking of Alex, you missed it. Well, there's lots for you to watch in the replay. If anyone also, I should have said this earlier. If anyone happens to be watching and wants to timestamp all these different questions and topics, I will add the timestamps to the description box. Otherwise, probably not going to do that because I don't really like to rewatch myself. But don't feel any pressure for anybody that's watching. Yes, Kara, we should figure out more live chats. Maybe we can do more new makeup nonsense or whatever. Y'all let me know. Like, feel free to anyone watching, feel free to leave a comment, or like in the actual comments of the video once this gets reposted, or in the community section, or like if you're a patron in Patreon, or tweet me, DM me on Instagram, whatever. If you have like topics and you're like, hey, I would love for you to talk about that in particular because I have questions, because I'm going to reveal a little secret, just a little secret that I think that I've picked up from Audra, because she truly has some great advice, is that like people want to interact and ask questions and shit. And so that's part of our reason to do the 5 for 5. But if there's other things like cooking or other makeup things or whatever that you would love to have like a live chat convo about, let me know so we can make it happen. I can make it happen. Anyway, thank you everybody for hanging out. If you could thumbs up the stream, that would be amazing. If you want to share it with people, that would also be awesome. I appreciate that. But just thanks for hanging out. I hope you have a good night. I hope you're all taking care of yourself. And also, I'll have a new video live in the morning. So I will see you then. Good night, everybody. Let's end the broadcast.